Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Jalene with JovesStar Astrology. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. We are here at the beginning of the Astro New Year, which is Aries season. We've gone through the spring equinox and we've already made it through our first eclipse of the year, which is pretty eventful for me. I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. It's the reason why I didn't do a video for the lunar eclipse, the full moon eclipse at the earlier in the month on March 14th. Anyway, thanks for coming back. I'm Jalene. I'm with JovesStar Astrology. And if you're new here, please consider liking, sharing, commenting on the video. It helps me as I build the channel. For those of you that are returning, my diehard fans, or not fans, my diehard friends. I mean, you're all my friends. Thanks for being here and for being patient with me. I hope everybody is doing well during this eclipse season. It's always an exciting time. We see things change. We see things end. We see new things coming in. Sometimes we're taken by surprise. This one may not be different. We might still be shaking the dust off from the earlier eclipse that we had this month. I know that I am. If you would like a personal reading, we'll get all this stuff out of the way. My information is down below. You can send a contact note to me through my website, or you can contact me through my email address. All of that is down below in the description box. Okay, we're going to get started. We're going to take a look at this Aries solar eclipse. It's the last eclipse in Aries since we started the nodal transition, the nodes in Aries Libra back in 2023 already, when we experienced the first eclipses. So you can think back to what's gone on since then, right? We did have the nodes move into Virgo and Pisces in January of this year, but we still have a little bit of residual here to clean up from the last nodal cycle. And the nodal cycle, where the North Node is in one place, that's kind of pushing us to learn about the themes that are related to the sign that it's in for the collective, as well as for you and wherever that's sitting in your birth chart. So you should pull your birth chart out and take a look at that. And we had just come out of the Aries Libra nodal transit into Pisces Virgo at the beginning of the year. But whenever those transitions occur, we have a little bit of overlap. So we were still in the Aries Libra time period for the nodal transition back in September, but we had our first eclipse in the sign of Pisces, kind of getting us a little bit acclimated, on regarding what we might expect for the next 18 months. The nodal transit is 18 months. And then when the nodes actually moved into Virgo and Pisces in January, now we've got this Aries eclipse, solar eclipse on the back end, kind of, handing things off for the better part of the next 18 months to Virgo and Pisces. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about this eclipse, this solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, the new moon eclipse, and that's where the moon and the sun come together. They signify a new beginning in the Aries area of your chart. Pull out your birth charts. Did I already say that? If I did, pull out your birth charts. Anyway, so we're looking at a solar eclipse in Aries. It's not a total solar eclipse. It's a partial solar eclipse. Even though the new moon is in the sign of Aries, it's close enough to the node, which is the North Node, in this case, in the sign of Pisces, to make it an eclipse. So we have a little bit of fusion here, right? We have the Pisces Virgo theme with the last little bit of Aries Libra infusion. So this is a time of reflection on the last 18 months and to pay attention to what we might be working on and seeing for the next 18 months in the Virgo Pisces area of our chart. And of course, the nodal transits themselves are part of a longer cycle, so we can look back and see when Pisces, Virgo, Aries, Libra were in the inverse 9 years ago, and then even 9 years before that, where they were actually in the same exact spot. And you can think about those time frames and what was going on in your life then, what's going on in your life now. Not likely to be exactly the same kind of things, but thematically they might be, right? So it's always a fun exercise to go back and reflect. As I've been talking more and more about astrology these past years, I really am sorry that I didn't take the time to really, like keep a diary. Like those of you who kept diaries over the years, those kinds of things are really important when you're trying to go back and study the patterns, right, in your life. But the area of your chart is going to be activated now that was activated during those prior nodal transits, right? Just a little bit different. Hopefully we're a little bit older, a little bit wiser. So we're going to take a look at the chart. We'll take a look at the Sabian symbol. We'll see what kind of interesting things are happening as a result of this eclipse that's coming up, and you can follow along with your own birth chart. So as far as the last eclipse, I just want to double back and explain that the eclipse that we had on March 14th in the sign of Pisces and Virgo, which is a lot about Pisces, is a lot about letting go of things, control of things. It can be about sacrifice. It can be about compassion, right? And peacefulness and creativity and all of those things. Pisces is it's the last sign of the zodiac. So it does, ruling the 12th house, represent endings of some sort or reformation of something, or just, something that we may not see coming, but nonetheless, a water sign, a mutable water sign. So it can involve a lot of different things, but water signs are sensitive and they are emotional. So that last eclipse, which had Saturn, which has been transiting in the sign of Pisces for a while now. It involved Saturn, that last eclipse, and Venus was still in, I think, yes, Venus was in Pisces still then too, I believe. I'm not going to roll it back, but let me just take a peek. I don't know that you'll be able to see it, but I'm going to take a peek just to make sure, because I do think, that I have this, up here. Let's just take a quick look, because I did pull that up. No, Venus was in Aries during the last eclipse, and now it is retrograde going back into Pisces. So anyway, at that time, that eclipse, Saturn was involved. And so you could have found that there were difficult things happening. Saturn can represent, ultimately an ending of some sort. So you may have experienced that. I myself did experience an ending. I had to let my little 17-year-old dog, Sadie, go. I had to put her to sleep. And, with Saturn a part of that eclipse, it was, tough decisions that had to be made. And I had to make that decision. And Saturn is is about time. And in the time of Pisces, a sign of Pisces is like, it was time to let her go. The opposite of Pisces is Virgo, where the South Node sits, and that can be a lot of letting go, releasing things as well. But what is Virgo? Virgo is something we take care of and we commit to being of service to. And Virgo also, the house of Virgo, 6th house in the zodiac, represents pets. So I had to let go of her and realize that it was no longer my job, that she had done her job, right? And that it was time to let her go. Saturn in Pisces, and that, I could not help her live a better life like I had for so many years like Virgo would do. And it's interesting because she was 17 years old. And back then, she was born during the time where Saturn was in Virgo. So that's very interesting. It's very unusual that a dog lives that long. So I'm proud to say that that she had a very long life, but it was difficult. It was hard to let go of a responsibility that I had, something that I had that was very sweet and that I loved and took care of for a very long time. So that's why I didn't do the eclipse. She actually passed on the day of the eclipse. And my family was here. She had been with all of us. My kids are much older, but she'd been with all of us and all of the grandkids for the better part of their lives. So apologies for not doing that video, but it was a rough time. And I'm still feeling the residual of that. It was a very long time to be her dog mom, and wherever she's at, I hopefully she knows that that it was a privilege and that I will miss her very, very much. So if any of you guys are experiencing anything difficult, my thoughts go out to you. So hang in there. Okay, we're going to pull the chart up. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to look at the Sabian symbol and talk a little bit about that. But this is an interesting eclipse. Most of them are, right? When I go back and I look at my videos, I'm like, I use the word interesting a lot, but it is interesting. It's interesting. Okay, let's see if I can get my pen work this time. It's always a science project, right? Okay, so here we have the eclipse in the sign of Aries. It's at 9 degrees Aries. When we look at the Sabian symbol, we'll be rounding up to 10 degrees of Aries. But this new moon solar eclipse is at 9 degrees of Aries. It is happening tomorrow, March 29th, Saturday, here in the States. Here where I'm at in Phoenix, Arizona at 3:57 a.m. So it's early morning. It's interesting because there's so much Pisces, which we'll talk about, that, what the realizations might come to you in dreams, right? So, or in a very strange way, or you just like in the way of like a feeling or just a knowing. But it's coming through at 3:57 in the morning here and on the West Coast. And it will be on the East Coast a few hours later. Check a time zone converter if you're elsewhere in the world for exactly what time this eclipse is coming through for you. So 9 degrees of Aries. What do we have here going on with this eclipse? Well, we have Aries is ruled by Mars. So we have the ruler of this eclipse, which is very important, in the sign of Cancer. And Mars has been in Cancer forever. It's gone through a long retrograde. Mars does not do well in Cancer. It's just very emotional and protective. It can be gut wrenching in terms of our memories, the things that we've gone through and that we're holding inside of us. It can be a lot about, where we're living, how, it can have something to do with our families. It's just Cancer is a water sign. It's very emotional. It's a cardinal water sign. And so that's why they say Mars doesn't do well in Cancer, because Mars is dry and it's hot and it's action oriented and it just wants to get up and go. And Cancer is saying, I've got to consider feelings, right? This is how I'm feeling. It's charged. It's just charged with emotion. So this retrograde has been difficult for a lot of people. Especially if you're Mars ruled, right? If you're Aries sun or rising, or Scorpio sun or rising, the Mars in Cancer has been difficult. A little bit easier for Scorpio because, at some point it's going to make a trine to your sign, which, you understand it a little bit more. You're going to let it flow through. Whereas with Aries, it's a square. So it just could feel like a whole lot of tension for whatever's going on for you. So you're going to want to look at the ruler and the house in your chart where the eclipse is happening, but also where Mars is sitting, because it is ruling that. Now, what we also have Mercury that is retrograde right now. So we've got a couple of retrogrades going on. We've got Mercury retrograde, which is the mind, messages, contracts, movement. Mercury retrograde, I mean, it's nothing to be afraid of. A Mercury retrograde is a rewind or a slowdown. And, when Mercury's in the sign of Aries, it doesn't like to be slowed down, right? It wants to just kind of move and get things done, say what just it's on its mind, get the show on the road. Mercury in Aries doesn't, candy coat things generally, but it is retrograde. So it means that we are going back and possibly reviewing and revising things, or feeling a bit slowed down compared to what Mercury in Aries might want to be doing during this time, right? So I'm a Mercury ruled sign. I'm Gemini, a lot of things, like as a lot of you know, and a Gemini rising. And I can feel the Aries. I can feel the, oh yes, the spark. Oh yes, I want to move. Oh yes. But I feel the pullback as well. And so what that kind of has done for me is create sort of like this internal tension and a need for me to be really careful about what I say, what I do. So I know myself well enough to know that when there's a Mercury retrograde, I need to pay attention to how I'm feeling internally and how people are reacting. So I know when I feel that frustration, I've got to go, well, everybody else isn't maybe feeling, like they want to move as quick, or things aren't moving as quick as I'd like them to be. So I just know to kind of like take a chill pill, but I didn't always know that, right? So with Mercury in Aries retrograde, there could be some frustration in how things are moving along, or what things, you thought you might have had handled, or you're now having to go back and take a look at. But there's a reason for that. So we have Mercury that is at the 0 Aries degree point. It's at 0. So 0 is a very potent degree. It's already been here because it's retrograde. So now it's going back over it. And of course, when it goes direct to Pisces and moves back forward, it'll hit it again. 0 degrees of any sign is very important. It's kicking off something new. It's very powerful. But 0 degrees Aries, that is the Aries point. That is the beginning of the beginning. So we've got something going on here that is very powerful, but is brand new, a brand new start in some way. And that doesn't mean it has to be a completely new situation, but it's different in some way, right? Or it's just getting started in a different kind of way. So 0 degrees, Mercury retrograde, very important. Know that that's going to hit again, but it's part of this eclipse. So this is a lot of thinking, a lot of ideas, a lot of planning and putting things together, and maybe a lot of reworking things and a little bit of frustration. I say, if you can hold your cards or close to your vest and think a little bit more before letting things out, it might be helpful at this time. But then again, there are people who hesitate all the time. They keep their mouth shut, they bite their tongue, and they probably shouldn't. So this might help those folks. I think out in the collective, people want to speak their mind. People are becoming more vocal about their personal situations, which is Aries, about what it is that they need, what it is that they want, and what they're willing to do to create that change for themselves. So Aries is a lot about I want, I am going to, I am, all of those things, which is great. But I think that the Pisces, right, where it's going back into Pisces is reminding us that we are part of a bigger picture, right? We are part of something that's bigger. That's Pisces, right? It's the collective as a whole, and how it feels, what's going on there. So Mercury conjunct this solar eclipse, right? It's a bit of a hot button, something to watch, but nonetheless valuable, and there's a reason for that. Also, as we have all of the Pisces, which comes into play here because it's making some of the Pisces is making aspects to the ruler, but I'll just talk to you about the retrogrades. So Mercury is going to retrograde back to the point, very close to the point where we had the eclipse on March the 14th. So is Venus. Venus during this time of this eclipse has already moved back into Pisces. It's conjunct the North Node. You can see Saturn is conjunct the North Node. Neptune and the North Node have recently joined. So we've got something here that's talking about, that's very, very loud in terms of these are the lessons that we need to learn. These are the things that we need to pay attention to. And so there's a lot in Pisces. And because Pisces can be letting go of things or changing things or creating new form out of things, and it's about all of us, right? It's about all of us together. The North Node is saying we've got to be responsible about those things. We've got to pay attention. We've got to be able to see the forest through the trees. We've got to be considerate and sort of operate out of, from a place of compassion, right? Pisces is very much about those things. Pisces is charitable, right? It is the place where we are of service and we may get nothing in return, right? We may have to experience extreme sacrifice for the sake of others or the people around us. And, people that have heavy Pisces in their chart, it's hard for them to do that, right? They don't get the recognition. They end up feeling alone. Saturn in Pisces can create a lot of aloneness, the feeling of aloneness, which is why, it represents the places in our heart and inside our body and our heads where we can feel isolated. And with Saturn there, even more so isolation. And it's going to be emotional isolation. But this is trying to get us to open our mind to the fact that we're going to have to let go of the way some structures and some things in our life have been and the way we've done things and move into something new. Aries, right? This Aries point is saying we are taking the lessons, Pisces being the end, and looking at the things that have fallen apart around us or the way that we've done things over time. What's worn out? What's old? Saturn. And we're trying to move into a new period, which is Aries. So it's a little difficult to balance that. But I think, in this particular case, we are being shown somehow how we need to move forward. We need to do something new, but we need to consider the past. And maybe we need to lighten our load so that we can move forward. It's going to be different for everybody. I mean, we see these things kind of coming out in the collective where we're looking for answers to things that we otherwise didn't understand or might have been confusing or not clearly seen by those of us in the general public, right? We're seeing some of those things break apart, and we're really having to dig deep and think about how it is affecting everybody around us as well as ourselves, So the balance there is to consider the whole, Pisces, while we're trying to create something new that we feel passionate about, that we want to accomplish for ourselves. And that's the Aries, right? It's a lot of individuation. Like, what do I need to do for myself? Best case scenario would be understanding both, and mutable signs are really good at that. So that's why I think there's a little bit of a fusion here. It's like mutable signs, Pisces, Gemini, Sag, Virgo, really good at being able to see both sides of everything. And so with that concept in mind, if we can start new things, speak our mind, take care of ourselves and our needs and wants, but also consider what's going on around us and what has gone on in the past, I think that's where we hit the sweet spot, maybe. So anyway, we have all of this Pisces, and of course the Pisces comes into play as well because of the North Node. So don't forget about Pisces and what's been going on there, because that's what we're going to be doubling down on and experiencing more of in the next 18 months when we're thinking about a solar eclipse in the sign of Aries. This is almost like the end, like I said in the beginning, the end or the grand finale, at least for this time period, of the eclipses that we've experienced in a sign of Aries, in the Aries part of our chart. So all of that's important. Another very significant thing is right after this eclipse occurs, the very next day, March 30th. So on Sunday, we have Neptune that's been in the sign of Pisces since the better part of the last 14 and change years, moving into the sign of Aries. And we have not seen Neptune, none of us have seen Neptune move into the sign of Aries, right? Because those are very, very long cycles. So we've really got something new going on in the collective. Neptune, the collective, all of us. Aries, action, right? It's about it's about being brave and doing new things, being able to see the vision of what is new, create a vision, and be brave and active and, outspoken and forward enough to actually help create that for everybody. Neptune can create fog and confusion, but it can also soften things. And when we're talking about Aries, that is the warrior, right? Ruled by Mars, which is a malefic. Neptune going into Aries, hopefully it can soften that. Neptune being a ruler of Pisces can be a more peaceful, right, in its quest to actually take on some kind of fight that's good for everybody. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. Of course, Neptune in Aries can and will show up in a lot of different ways over the next years that it's in there, but it's going to hit the very next day, which makes us really significant in terms of this eclipse, where it's going to go into and hit the 0-degree point the very next day, where Mercury is at the time of this eclipse. This may be a huge aha moment, right? This could be an eye-opening where things just start to make sense to you. What was the purpose of the work that I have been doing on behalf of everybody, or the sacrifices that I have made, or what will be elevating into a higher level? Neptune and Pisces is about spirituality, and I've given you my opinion on spirituality before. It isn't always, about religion or, meditation or quests, or it can be about how we treat one another in very small little pieces and ways throughout our life. And those behaviors and those things that we do have a ripple effect on other people's lives, and maybe on the collective, that we may never ever be aware of or really know. So spirituality, in my opinion, can be the little things, right? Just, saying hello to somebody who looks like they need to be acknowledged, or, I don't know, letting somebody cut in front of you, how you have to merge traffic. It can just be things that are just nice and decent and peaceful. So that, again, that fusion, I think, is part of the lesson here. But we have Neptune hitting that 0-degree point the very next day. So pay attention. If I can get to a place where I can do more videos and talk more about Neptune's transit through the sign of Aries and the things that we might experience. But for right now, it's going to hit the very next day. Oops. And my little guy here is going to act funny. Okay. So we also have, so there's a pile up here, basically, is what I was getting at. There's a huge pile up in Aries and Pisces. So all of this Aries energy being ruled by Mars in Cancer, which I talked about, be a little challenging. Mars will move out of Cancer in the middle of this month. April will move into sign of Leo. It's going to be in a much better position. And, I think that's where we might start to, feel like we are able to put a lot of the emotional things that we're been going through potentially into perspective and figure out how to move forward. This darn thing. Okay, well, so Pisces, all of this Pisces in the North Node, this is being ruled by Jupiter over here. There we go. I did this the last time, in the sign of Gemini still, and Neptune in the sign of Pisces. So there we go. It doubles down. What is Jupiter in Gemini? Jupiter is not in its home sign, or a great place, they say, in the sign of Gemini. But because it can scatter us a little bit if we don't know how to contain all of the thoughts, all of the information. If we're experiencing a lot of options and different ways to expand in terms of, in Gemini, things, right? Messages coming in, communications. What direction can I go? How am I going to move? What are people saying to me? How am I understanding and learning things? And how is that volley, that that information coming in or going out when it comes to other people. So there's just a lot there with Jupiter and Gemini, but I think it's related to Pisces, and it's saying everything is connected and related. So somehow that feeling of overwhelm is something that I think, the universe is saying we need to understand that this is kind of big, right? And that we have to sort of sort through all of this and wait it out. And we're going to have to decide what we can do and what we can't do, right? And that's the Pisces piece of here's everything. What's going to be of value now? What do I need to file away for later? What can I actually manage right now without getting too scattered? So all of the Pisces ruled by Jupiter and Gemini. And again, the Aries ruled by Mars in the sign of Cancer. So we have some other interesting things that I want to point out for this. Going back to Mercury that's retrograde, it's ruling the South Node. So when we're talking about the past, learning from the past, not really, I don't look at the South Node as, oh, we've got to let it go. I look at it as, oh, we're familiar with this. This is what we want to do, or how we're used to doing it, or really good at doing things. And those are Virgo things, right? Virgo is, being efficient and understanding systems and service and work and, our schedules and, crossing T's and dotting I's, and Virgo wants everything to be just right and just perfect. But it can get itself a little bit kind of tied up in knots because it hesitates, right? So then what it does is it worries too much. Virgo is a worrier, so it worries too much and it thinks too much and it hesitates to actually take a step or pull the trigger. And this Mercury that's here with this eclipse in the sign of Aries is giving that, okay, it's okay to let it go. It's okay to do it different. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it started, right? Just get it started. That could be some way that you are, you could be experiencing. We could be experiencing. I mean, let's face it, all of this Pisces, especially with Saturn there, and Saturn does rule systems and management and government and structures, right? And so we see all of those things falling apart. All of those things are falling apart, Pisces, or we're just able, Saturn, to start seeing things more clearly than we did before. And we now have to start working on picking up the pieces as everything goes into Aries. And Saturn's going into Aries too this year. It'll retrograde back to the late degrees of Pisces, but it's going. So we're going to have a lot of Aries. So it's brand new things. And so as we see things fall apart, we're going to have to modify how we like to put things together. South Node Virgo. We're going to have to modify a little bit of, well, it may not, let's just pick out the important pieces and let's not hesitate. We know we need systems. We know we need to have good operations, in how we work, Virgo. A lot of people are losing their jobs, South Node Virgo. Mercury in Aries, they're going back in retrograde. Maybe they're going back to do things that they used to do, but in a different way. Maybe they're doing it independently, right? A lot of new businesses, a lot of self-employed. Aries is about what you do, what the individual does. But it is about getting started and tapping into your past history, connections, what it is that you know. That's another way. But Mercury conjunct this solar eclipse represents the South Node in Virgo. So this is, things have to change. The systems aren't the same. My schedule's not the same. My job's not the same. I've got to create something new that hopefully will help rebuild what has been falling apart, or what we now see may not have been working. Maybe we're seeing that clearly. We also need to consider that we have Chiron in the sign of Aries, which is about personal wounding, can be physical. Aries is about physical, but Aries rules the first house. So it's about identity. It's about body. It's about mind. It's about who you are as you represent yourself in the world. So it's like the whole package of who you are and how you show up in the world. And Aries is about, I want to get things done. And it's a young energy, right? It's young and it's vibrant and it just wants to get things done. Well, we've got Chiron there. So yeah, first of all, you want to be really careful about your movements if you're doing something physical. But aside from that, this is about maybe Chiron getting over not feeling good enough, getting over being afraid to actually take action and stand up for yourself or start something new. A lot of people are really good at that, but a lot of us aren't. And I think this is a time where I think all of us have to be good at taking our skills and what we know and figuring out how we can help rebuild our own lives, the lives of our family, or the systems that we live in, work in. And maybe this Chiron in Aries is sort of like pushing us to do it, and it can be painful. Again, it could be a physical thing too, but the other thing to keep in mind is that Chiron is exactly squaring Mars in the sign of Cancer. So my pen is not working again, so I'm squiggling lines. This thing, I'm gonna have to come up with a better way. But it's a square. Square creates tension. It's squaring Mars, which is its ruler in the sign of Cancer. This is saying no matter how much it hurts, you have to move forward because your security depends on it. Your family depends on it. That's a way, right? You either have to, and you have to be careful how you do that because somebody could be harmed. So a square is like, oh, time to take action. If you can consider, and do it in a thoughtful way without hurting yourself or other people. But if we pull the trigger and jump the gun, we could be damaging our security or doing something to, not, help ourselves in terms of, how we feel, where we live, what we're doing to our family, our security, our homeland, even Cancer. So Cancer represents all of those things that the fourth house represents: home, family, foundation, the past, emotions, the mother, our security, our ability to nurture, comfort. The square creates tension. So we might feel like we have to do something. Something hurts so bad, I just have to take action. This can go either way. It's like consider others, but also, you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to hurt other people. This is where with all of this Pisces, if people aren't handling the Pisces energy very well, that it can be harmful to themselves, to other people. Pisces is, again, very much about the emotions and the psychological makeup of, it's about our psyche, and it's about escapism, right? Are we really seeing things, the forest through the trees? So that square is a big point of tension here in this eclipse that we want to keep an eye up on and really sort of try and express that positively. But if we can, I think this is a place where it's like, okay, now I'm ready to do this. Because why? I have to move forward because my family depends on it. I need to let go of the past, Cancer, no matter how difficult it is. So there's a positive way to deal with that square if we're ready to do it. If not, we kind of hold back and wait and, wait till things fall into place, or we're better ready to handle it, because it could be destructive. Another part of this eclipse that's important is Saturn. And I'm just going to, hopefully you guys can see this because this pen is just not helping me. Saturn here conjunct the North Node, which makes it really loud, right? It's time for something. Time to let go, time to put things together, time to be responsible. Is trining Mars in the sign of Cancer. So this is a nice controlled way. If we put that Saturn element in there, this square is difficult, but Saturn says, I'm going to hold back, or I'm going to be a little bit more cautious. I'm going to pay attention to what's going on around me, how other people feel. And I'm going to take some kind of action that is actually going to help me clear the past or take better care of my family. There's a plan, right? It's time, right? Even if we see things falling apart around us, it's time to do that. And the trine here to Mars in Cancer, even though Mars struggles in Cancer, can help us actually do that with a little bit of footing and a little bit of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity, which is very much Saturn in Pisces. So that's helpful. Another factor here is that all of this, and Saturn specifically, but right now we have, the North Node, Venus and Neptune in Pisces, is sextiling Uranus in the sign of Taurus, the earth sign of Taurus. And that's about our values. It's about what we possess. It's about our self-esteem. Uranus can open our mind very quickly. Uranus can help move us forward very quickly. Uranus and Taurus, where things get a little bit shaky financially, or we're a little unsure of what our true values are, or something's being changed or reworked because of upsetting or volatile up and down experiences that we may have been learning about or having thrown at us for quite a few years now, since Uranus has been in Taurus. But that's material things, right? So it is actually things that that we need to, or that we want, or that we have, that help us sustain life. And that's including our body. So with the sextile from Saturn primarily to the sign of Uranus, as well as the trine to Mars, this has helped to have us, the things can move forward very quickly. Uranus in Taurus wants progress. It's going to be a little rebellious. It's going to shake you up and make you feel uncomfortable. It probably has, like I said. But this Saturn here can do the same thing with this Uranus. It's like, okay, I've had enough of how I feel about myself, or what what my habits are. Taurus is very much about habits and, what we consume, and there's enough shakeup. But the changes can be controlled. We can realize it's time. Mars can help us do that, change things in the Mars area of our chart, but also help us do that with new ideas. Maybe we find groups of people. Uranus represents groups that can help us do it. The sextile is positive as well as the trine. So things could move very quickly. We could have incredible insight, and our material situations or our values could change for the better very, very quickly if we choose to utilize these energies in that way, right? We could see some very quick and positive, rapid movement. And that sextile is going to be in place for a long time. And so not only is there that and Neptune as well is sextile. So this is a time where, even though things might be feeling like they're changing and falling apart, softening, not on solid ground, we have some help here to move forward in some way. So that's an important piece. That aside from that, what we have going on, again, Saturn is going to come exact conjunct the North Node. That might be a realization. We're going to have Venus go direct and hit the eclipse point at some point. So we're going to have Neptune that will hit it. This is an eclipse, I think, at a new beginning that really has legs, right? They all do, but this one might be more significant because Venus is going to retrograde, go back into Aries, hit that spot. Mercury is going to retrograde, and it's going to go beyond. It's going to hit that spot. Mercury went retrograde right here on the point of this eclipse. That's significant. What was going on right at the beginning of this month for you when Mercury hit that point? Think about that. This is all very significant. These are interesting times. So all of these planets will hit there. And then eventually Neptune, which is slower moving, and Saturn is going to hit this eclipse point. So this is going to be something that whatever's going on for you right now, whatever's starting that may seem a little confusing or not completely put together, we're working through that. We're drawing from the past to move to the future. We might leave some ways of thinking or doing things that we've done for a really long time in the past, or we might change it or modify the way we do it. But there's something here about having to start something new, having to participate for the good of everybody. And this is about a lot about, I think, survival or something that you're passionate about. There's something being worked here so that this new beginning can come forth, and it's going to be moving forward for quite some time. And all of these planets, are, as they come through, are going to trigger that. And not to forget, we have Pluto here that is sextile, right? Pluto is sextile, this 0 Aries point, and where this eclipse is. And so Pluto is about profound change. And in the sign of Aquarius, this is about the collective, people, large groups. So maybe this is about what can I contribute to what has gone on in the past, or what I've learned in the past that I can bring out into the world, and explain better from behind the curtain, right? Pisces, the things that you do when nobody's looking or nobody understands, so that we can work together to start something new. And Pluto sextiling this point here is about maybe bringing people together to do that. It's like each little piece that that each person has to bring to the table can be helpful if we can learn how to work together. That's a lot about what this Aries is. Yeah, you've got to take that initiative, and you've got to include yourself in the outcome, but you have to, it can't be all about you. So if you're on the side that, well, it's all about me, it's what I think, and you can't open up to the bigger plot or theme or the bigger picture or project, there's going to be a problem, right? So it's a balance, just like everything else. When we look at the astrology, all of this Aries is balancing out. We're pulling, can also pulling from this axis. The other side is Libra. Well, what does Libra rule, or rules Libra? It's Venus. Venus is in Pisces right now. So as Venus has moved back in Pisces out of Aries retrograde, it's a little more calm and a little bit more peaceful. But it also might mean a resolution of, well, this is what I'm losing, or I'm having to let go that I love, or it can mean a lot of things. So you don't have to go into all of that, but we are balancing that Libra side. So a lot of who's going to take the action, and is it going to be good for everybody? If not, I've got to go my own way, because this is what's going to work, or this is what I'm going to do. But we're doing that possibly in a very compassionate way during at least the time of this eclipse, as Venus is conjunct the North Node. And the North Node, it's about our destiny. It's about what we're learning. It's about what the universe wants us to consider. And that is for us to consider that we're connected to everything, that we are all together, and that I've said this before, we need to stop pulling ourselves apart and choosing sides. So, hopefully it doesn't, we could see things out there with all of this Aries, it can be very volatile and argumentative, and violent. And hopefully that's not the case. I expect we're going to see a lot of people, their voices are going to start to come out. We've seen all of that. Hopefully it's not, again, violent, right? Or warlike, which is Aries. And that's just going to be about tempering ourselves, holding back. The retrogrades might help with that, and realizing that we're part of a bigger picture, that there's compassion and love, and there can be peace, even if we don't come together and agree on the same things, or, that somehow we can be flexible, right? Mutable signs are about flexibility. One thing, as I've been studying the astrology lately, that I want to throw out there before we go to the Sabian symbol, is that this Uranus in the sign of Taurus, the Sabian symbol, is a well-kept public park, right? And so we know that Taurus is an earth sign, and Uranus is disruption and rebellion, and it's a collective ruling Aquarius. So it's about people and groups. So, hopefully we don't see violence out in public, places where there are a lot of people organizing things, right? A well-kept public park is maybe groups of people coming together for a cause, right? That has to do with our values or our resources, how we're going to come together to actually create change in our material world. It could mean a lot of different things. My goodness, this could be, public sporting events. It could be public picnics or rallies at parks or, on the grounds of schools and universities. I mean, this could be a lot of protests. Hopefully they're peaceful. The sextile helps, right? We can do this peacefully. We can talk about, what's going on, how we're feeling, what we don't have, what we need, how volatile things are financially. But that Uranus, a well-kept public park, I don't know how that will come out, but keep your eyes and ears open for some kind of event occurring in a place where there are a large group of people. And, of course, Uranus shaking the ground, things, standard things like earthquakes, things like that. But I'm thinking, look for some kind of large group or some kind of events that either give us a surprising news, shake things up, something happens. Look for those kinds of things. That might be something that we see. What else do I want to say? Well, for right now, that's all I want to say about this eclipse. Between now and the end of April, we're going to see this point triggered. I think there's going to be a lot going on. Hold on to your hat. Stand up for yourself if you need to. Be kind if you can. Remember, it's not all about you. We do have other people, but this is about what your contribution is and what you need to say. So if you start hearing people say, I need this, or what about me, or I can do this for you, if you can, it can go a lot of different ways. Then, it matches the themes of this eclipse. Okay, I'm going to take the chart down. If you guys have questions, please feel free to throw those down in the comment section. I'm happy to answer. You guys know I always read my comments and I respond. All right, we're going to take a look at a couple of things. Let's see, how long are we running here? Pretty long. Shocker. Okay, so Aries 10. The Sabian symbol, as it was written, is a man teaching new forms for old symbols. Keyword interpretation. The theme is an update. This symbol speaks to the rectification of thinking or new understanding gained through practical, hands-on experience in the everyday world. The image of a man teaching new forms for old symbols is perhaps better understood in the context of the astrological mimeograph version of this degree. The unmodified word symbols was expanded there to read symbols that have lost their meaning. Pisces is very much about meaning, right? Even though this is an Aries eclipse, it's like we're looking at the meaning of everything, right? What was the meaning? What was the purpose? That's all Pisces. The implication is that the passage of time, Saturn's involved, and Saturn is time, cultural evolution, Pluto, and Aquarius, that's interesting. And modern ways of doing things can change the meaning of words and images. And Uranus and Aquarius is very much about modern, right? Modernizing, changing, updating, progress. On a practical level, a good example is the difficulty of interpreting runes or ancient Mayan and Egyptian hieroglyphics in light of present-day experience. The concepts they represent still exist, but there is little or no frame of reference for these older symbols in a modern age. Thus, new symbols are continually being created as the concepts they represent are dramatized in the common experience of individuals in every new age. At its highest, the symbol represents a genius for understanding and creating analogies and translating experience into symbolic imagery. Negative would be dyslogic and an inability to understand the meaning of experience or the link between cause and effect. And I think that's kind of like what I was saying. It's like, how is what you need and what you're going to do and what you have to contribute and how are you going to serve what you need, but also make sure that you're doing no harm at least, but maybe helping one another, right? Being charitable and helpful. The accent is on psychology and communication. You may need to find new ways to get your message across due to a generation gap in experience or language difficulties. Your greatest advantage lies in being creative. I don't know why that's innovative and alert. Something you see or hear today could be the key that solves a mystery facilitates your understanding or helps you communicate more effectively with others. Listen closely. Guard against the inclination to turn a deaf ear or blind eye to what doesn't make sense to you at first hearing or sight. Resist the temptation to hold on to old ways of doing things that no longer work. Just because they're familiar and comfortable, don't sell yourself short or underestimate your ability to learn new skills. Rectification, new understanding, updating, substitution, progress, analogy, explanation, translation, education, right? Very interesting. I want to read from, that's a Sabian symbol book, if you guys are interested, from Diana Roche. But I also like to use The Zodiac by Degrees by Martin Goldsmith because it's updated and it's a little bit more modern. So here's that. I'm going to read from that really quickly. Aries 10. In his dressing room, an adolescent star strikes a pose in front of a round convex mirror. Later, he wades through a flock of admirers, signing autographs as he goes. Having a clear idea of who one is on a spiritual level, or narcissistic. So look out for narcissism is what this is saying, and all that Aries that can happen, right? Self-confidence, finding joy in self-expression, putting one's personal stamp or signature on one's every action or on one's creative work. Physical appearance as a reflection of inner character. I was just talking about this morning with somebody about physical appearance and how it can open the door, but it doesn't confirm the substance, like what's within or what the history is or behind all of that. And so that, although that's important, right? And that's the Virgo. It's like, does everything look put together? That's good. Is it actually put together? That's the Pisces part. That's what we have to wade through. So that's interesting what this symbol says. Physical appearance is a reflection of inner character, tending to one's public image without deviating from one's true self. Childishly self-centered, take it or leave it attitude can turn other people off and dim one's shine in the mirror of public opinion. So the way that this guy talks about the saving symbols, like it can be either this or that, right? You'll see this expression or maybe that expression, right? So you could see a lot of that selfishness in Aries, you know, if you choose to express it that way, right? Physical beauty based on just proportions versus exaggerated features that are nonetheless expressive of one's inner self. Artistic license, distortion as a way of showing new truths. Strong drive for success, competitive, may run roughshod over rivals. Exploring and expressing a new facet of one's personality. So that's like an either or, but definitely that's all about taking action. Right? It's about taking your own personal skill sets, putting them out there, being brave enough to put them out there, even though they may be in a very, you know, young or not completely developed form, right? And being gracious about how that's received and being willing to tweak that and work with others and knowing that the biggest part of this is taking the step, right? And if you fall, you fall. You pick yourself back up, and hopefully you've surrounded yourself with people that are compassionate enough to understand that and help you. And they will if you're helping them. I don't think with all of this Aries, it's like, yeah, we need to take action and we need to think about ourselves, but it isn't just about us, right? This is a balance here. It's Aries Libra axis is I and we, right? So bringing that together, but there is a huge emphasis on getting things started. And I think that needs to happen after we come out of the long cycle and come into Pisces and learn some things and reflected on some things and maybe still feeling confused about some things. But like that Aries is like, okay, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. Pisces doesn't look for perfection. It looks for what's good for everybody, and that can be modified. So what's going on in your life there? Look at the Pisces area of your chart. Look at the Virgo area of your chart. Look still at Aries and Libra in your chart. So this is going to have to, and of course where the rulers are. So the Cancer place in your chart this is talking to all of this Aries and this eclipse. And where is Mercury? Right? Mercury's now in Aries, so it's transiting there. So you can look at Aries, but like, you know, communication style and information and things that are coming in. And Mercury can actually represent people too. So do you have people coming back in your life that you used to work with or you used to, you know, communicate with or talk to in some way? Same with Venus, you know, people that you love. Those are all parts of the retrograde, but, or is it just reflection? Can be that, right? Pisces. Neptune's going into Aries, but is that just really all about us? Is that Neptune and Aries? Neptune represents so many things, but it represents mirrors. It's like, is this looking at the man in the mirror? How are we going to express that? We have a choice. We'll see what goes on out there in the collective. You know, I've often said there's just so much fighting, you know, and division that, you know, sometimes it takes a common enemy to bring people together. And sometimes it just takes, this is my opinion. This is what I know based on my experience. I'm willing to listen to yours, but I'm not going to let anybody dull my flame. Right. And if I get shot down, not hopefully literally, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. Cause I feel my contribution is authentic. And it's based on some kind of experience, hopefully. Lord knows we've had like a lot of time in the corner or behind the curtains, you know, in front of the curtain, you know, not really knowing what's going on, all that Pisces. There's just been so much Pisces and Saturn. And of course, Neptune's been there for 14 years. So things are changing. And it's been a big year. And I said that in one of my other videos is like, we had a big year with, you know, Pluto moving fully into Aquarius for the next 20 years. And Saturn, that is still transiting in the sign of Pisces, but that change is going to happen into Aries this year. Neptune is going into Aries this year. Big deal that these outer planets, Uranus is at the very end of Taurus. It's going to move into Gemini. That's going to be lightning fast. Movements, communications, transmission of information. So it's a big year. And I think what this nodal transit with Virgo and Aries is telling us is it's time to, you know, we have our ducks in a row. We've got to move forward and let the chips fall where they may. Let go of some things, realize that we may have to go back and rework things. Things aren't always perfect. We might have to let go of an old way of doing things that we're used to, because, you know, those habits that we have, you know, our predictability in the sign of Virgo, it's got to, you know, it may go a little bit by the wayside in terms of the way we've always known it. But we're going to need to keep those skills in check, right? Those of you with heavy Virgo placements, it's like, you know how to put shit in order. Those skills are necessary to create something new. But we're going to have to work with other people. And I mean, I have a Virgo stellium. So it's like, sometimes it's like, I can be a little bit, no, everything has to be just like that. Even in groups. And it's like, oh, not everybody does it the same way, but is the end result the same? Right. So that Pisces is like, let's be a little flexible and, you know, consider all sides and know that if things get messy, we can fall back on Virgo and we can readjust and put things back in place. But we got to get going, because Virgo can be like, oh, I'm hesitating. No, I've had the same job for 40 years. I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. Well, you might just get booted out of that job. We've seen a lot of that stuff going on. Now you've got to come up with a way to reinvent yourself. Why? Because you've got family, Cancer, that Mars in Cancer, you've got things, your security. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. I think we just need to keep our perspective in check. Mars is going to move into Leo, like I said, by the end of the month. That's going to be good. Middle of the month, I think it's 17th of April. So yeah, there's going to be a lot popping off, right? I mean, Mars likes it better in Leo, but it's also fiery, and with, you know, coming out of the Aries eclipse and the Aries things going on. Yeah, we're gonna have to be a little bit careful, especially as Mercury and Venus start to move back into Aries, which is also going to happen this month. So anyway, let me know what's going on with you after you check out your charts. Look at those places in your charts. I'd be interested in hearing. Get a hold of me if you want to take a look at what's going on for you. And yeah, thanks for, everybody who reached out, because I posted something on my Facebook actually, so about my little dog. And so everybody that reached out or that knew that happened, thank you so much. That was very sweet. It's always helpful. So I will talk to you soon. Have a good solar eclipse, right? Be very careful out there no matter what, because we don't know who's falling on the side of what, and Aries is fast and furious, and we just want to fall on the right side of that, right? Anyway, take care. May the stars forever be in your favor, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.